也是大名鼎鼎的冠军教头。
List, Sean Bradley. Ralph Sampson was once called basketball's future. But when fans see the words "he was racist," they expect a much simpler story than the truth. The real story is not about one mean word or one bad moment. It is about a man who had everything the game could ask for, and then watched it all fall apart because of 7 forces he could not stop. Some of those forces were other people. Some were decisions made in offices. Some were teammates who made the worst choices of their lives at the worst possible time. And some were simply the brutal facts of what it means to be 7 feet 4 inches tall in a league that had no idea what to do with you. And as this story starts to show how fast a legend can fall, give this video some hype if you want more stories about the player's history almost forgot. No official record exists of Ralph Sampson ever sitting down and naming 7 players he will never forgive. That list is a viral idea built for clicks, but here is what is true. 7 real things broke his career. 7 real forces stole the future that should have been his. And by the time this story is done, you will understand why the viral idea feels so real, even if the list itself was never spoken out loud. Ralph Lee Sampson Jr. was born on July 7, 1960, in Harrisonburg, Virginia. By the 9th grade, he was already 6 feet 7 inches tall. By his senior year of high school, he was over 7 feet tall. He was one of the most highly recruited high school players in basketball history. Every major college program in the country had him on their list. His final high school season was not even close to normal. He averaged nearly 30 points per game. He pulled down 19 rebounds per game. He blocked 7 shots per game. He led his team to back-to-back state championships. People in Virginia were not just talking about a good player. They were talking about something they had never seen before. But even back then, the pressure was already heavy. He was not just a kid playing basketball. He was a symbol. He was the future. And the weight of that label followed him everywhere he went. He received death threats during college. That is not something a young player should have to carry. At the University of Virginia, he did things that still have not been matched. He won the ACC Player of the Year award 3 times. Only one other player in conference history ever did that. He won the Naismith National Player of the Year award 3 times. He is the only player to ever win the John R. Wooden Award twice. Over 4 years, he averaged 16, 9 points, 11, 4 rebounds, and 5 blocks per game. That last number was a school record. But for all the awards, there was one thing Ralph Sampson never won: a national championship. In 1981, his team was knocked out of the Final Four by North Carolina. In 1983, his team lost to NC State in one of the biggest upsets in tournament history. Sampson later said that failure haunted him. He called it a stigma on his soul. That mark stayed with him long after college ended. Even Wilt Chamberlain noticed something different about Sampson. Before Sampson ever played a pro game, Wilt stepped onto an elevator and found himself standing next to Sampson and a 7'2" player named Sam Bowie. Wilt, one of the biggest men to ever play the game, was so stunned looking up at them that he forgot to get off at his floor. He entered the NBA as the first overall pick in the 1983 draft, taken by the Houston Rockets. Right away, he delivered. As a rookie, he averaged 21, 0 points and 11, 1 rebounds and 1 Rookie of the Year. The next season, he averaged 22, 1 points. The season after that, 18, 9 points and 11, 1 rebounds. He could shoot, he could pass. He could handle the ball for his size in ways that nobody had seen from a player that tall. He was doing things that big men simply did not do in the 1980s. Then Houston drafted Hakeem Olajuwon and created what became known as the Twin Towers. 2 enormous players sharing the same front court. The idea was exciting. The results were real. In 1986, the Rockets made it all the way to the NBA Finals. That should have been the beginning of something great. Instead, it was the beginning of the end. Here is where the 7 forces come in, and each one hit harder than the last. The first force was a man named Jerry Sichting. Sichting was a backup guard for the Boston Celtics. He stood 6 feet 1 inch tall. During Game 5 of the 1986 NBA Finals, Sichting boxed out Ralph Sampson hard, very hard. He pushed and bumped and used his body the way tough guards did in that era. Sampson had just about enough. He threw punches. A smaller man was getting under the skin of one of the biggest men in the league, and Sampson snapped. He was ejected from the game. The Rockets went on to win that game without him, but the story the media ran with was not about the win. The story was about a 7'4" giant who could not keep his cool against a 6'1" backup. That story followed Sampson for the rest of his career. People started asking whether he was mentally tough enough, whether he could handle pressure, whether his emotions would always get in the way. That is a narrative that is very hard to shake once it starts. The second force was Bill Walton. Walton was a veteran Celtics center who jumped into that same brawl in the 1986 finals and body slammed Ralph Sampson to the floor. Walton was old school. He was from a generation of big men who believed that centers were supposed to fight for space in the paint, take hits, give hits, and never back down. Sampson wanted to play on the perimeter. He wanted to face up, shoot from the outside, handle the ball. To old school players like Walton, that was weakness dressed up as skill. When Walton slammed him to the floor, it was not just one player hitting another. It was an era sending a message. You're not going to change what a giant is supposed to do. We will make you pay for trying. The Celtics won the 1986 championship. Walton had a ring. Sampson had a reputation for being soft. That was not fair. But that is what happened. The third force was his own head coach, Bill Fitch. Fitch was old school in every way a coach could be old school. He believed big men belonged in the paint. He believed they should bang, fight, push, and grind every single game. He had no patience for Sampson's style. He did not want a 7-footer who could shoot pull-up jumpers. He wanted a traditional center who would go to war inside every night. Fitch forced Sampson to do exactly that. He pushed him into physical battles that put enormous strain on his knees and his back and his frame. The knees started to go, and when they did, Fitch had no compassion. He publicly called the injured Sampson a one-legged horse. Those are his words, a one-legged horse. That is what a coach said about his own star player when that player's body was breaking down. And then Fitch backed the decision to trade Sampson to the Golden State Warriors just 18 games into the 1987-88 season. The Twin Towers were done. Sampson was shipped out, and Fitch helped push him out the door. The fourth force was a teammate named Lewis Lloyd. Lloyd was a starting guard for Houston and a key piece of what made the Rockets dangerous. He gave Sampson and Olajuwon the backcourt support they needed to operate. But after the 1986 finals run, Lloyd tested positive for cocaine and was suspended by the league indefinitely. Just like that, one of Sampson's most important teammates was gone. The backcourt spacing that helped open things up for the big men disappeared overnight. Sampson's knees were already struggling. He needed less work, not more. But with Lloyd gone, he had to do more. He played heavier minutes on a body that was already sending warning signs. Every extra minute on those knees was making things worse. The fifth force was another teammate, Mitchell Wiggins. Wiggins was also a guard. He was also banned from the NBA around the same time Lloyd was suspended, also for substance abuse violations. Houston lost 2 starting guards in a very short window. The team's defensive perimeter fell apart. The structure around Sampson and Olajuwon crumbled. Sampson did not just lose one role player, he lost 2. At the exact moment when he needed his team to be strongest, the core of that team destroyed itself from the inside. Sampson was rushed back from knee surgery before he was ready. The doctors and trainers could not hold him out because the team desperately needed him. That rush job caused damage to his cartilage that never fully healed. The window to fix things the right way slammed shut forever. The sixth force was the point guard John Lucas. Lucas was the floor general of that Houston team. He was experienced. He knew how to run a 2-big offense. He kept the ball moving between Sampson and Olajuwon in a way that helped both of them thrive. But Lucas had his own battle with substance abuse. He relapsed late in the 1985-86 regular season and was cut by the team right before the playoffs. That meant Houston went into the most physical stretch of the season without the one person who knew how to make the offense work. Sampson and Olajuwon were left without a real floor general. The physical burden on both of them shot up. Sampson had to work harder than his body could handle at exactly the wrong moment, and the damage kept building. The seventh force is the one that might sting the most because it was a decision made before the real damage even started. In 1984, the Portland Trail Blazers offered a trade to Houston. They were willing to send Clyde Drexler and the number 2 overall pick in the 1984 draft to the Rockets in exchange for Ralph Sampson. Think about what that means. If Houston had said yes, they would have had the 1st and 2nd overall picks in one of the most famous drafts in NBA history. They could have drafted Hakeem Olajuwon with the 1st pick. They could have drafted Michael Jordan with the 2nd pick. And they would have had Clyde Drexler already on the roster. Houston said no. They kept Sampson, and in doing so, they locked him into a role that broke his body and denied the world what might have been the greatest team ever assembled. Now look at what the numbers say about how fast everything fell apart. In his first season, Sampson averaged 21, 0 points and 11, 1 rebounds. In his second season, he averaged 22, 1 points. In his third season, he still put up 18, 9 points and 11, 1 rebounds. Those are elite numbers. Those are the numbers of a franchise cornerstone. Then the knees started to go. In the 1986-87 season, he dropped to 15, 6 points in just 43 games. Then he was traded to Golden State. In 1988-89, his scoring collapsed to 6, 4 points. The year after that, 4, 2 points with the Sacramento Kings. Then 3, 0 points. And finally, in his last season with the Washington Bullets in 1991-92, he played only 10 games and scored just 2 points per game. His shooting percentage in that final season was .310. He had one shot, 523 from the field as a rookie. The fall was not slow, it was a collapse. A giant fell and hit the floor hard and never got back up. There is a reason why very tall players have shorter careers. It is not laziness, it is not weak character, it is math and physics. When a body that is 7 feet 4 inches tall lands from a jump, the force on the knees is enormous. When that body cuts left and right dozens of times per game, the wear on the joints adds up fast. The human skeleton was not designed to carry that much height at that kind of speed and intensity over many years. Look at the players in NBA history who stood 7 feet 4 inches taller. Mark Eaton played 875 games and dealt with serious back and knee problems. Rick Smits played 867 games before nerve damage in his feet ended his career. Manute Bol played 625 games and battled joint pain throughout. Yao Ming played only 481 games before stress fractures and bone disease cut short one of the most promising careers of his generation. Ralph Sampson played 456 games before the knees gave out for good. Boban Marjanovic played just 331 games at that height. And Victor Wembanyama is still playing now, his body carefully managed with every tool modern science has to offer. The pattern is clear. Bodies that tall almost always break down. The only question is how fast, and here's the part that makes Sampson's story feel even more painful. What he could do on a basketball court is what the league celebrates right now. He shot from the perimeter. He handled the ball. He faced up defenders and used his length from the outside. He did things from the center position that coaches in the 1980s had never seen and did not want to see. Victor Wembanyama does all of those same things today and is treated like a miracle. Coaches say he is changing the game. Fans say he is the future. The rules protect him. Spacing protects him. Medical science protects him. Wembanyama himself has called Sampson Ralph I and himself Ralph II. But in the 1980s, when Sampson tried to do those same things, coaches called it laziness. They called it avoidance. They said he was too soft to play in the paint where he belonged. They said a giant should fight inside, not float outside. And so they pushed him into a role that his body was not built to survive and his style was never made for. He was ahead of his time. That sounds like a compliment. In his case, it was a trap. After basketball ended, the world outside was not kind. He had spent his whole life being the biggest thing in any room he walked into. He had been a star since 9th grade. He had been in the NBA Finals. And then it was just over. The identity that had been his for decades was suddenly gone. By 2005, the legal problems became public. He pleaded guilty to owing more than $670,000 in back child support across several cases. In 2006, he was convicted of federal mail fraud connected to the purchase of an SUV and served a 2-month prison sentence. In 2011, he was arrested in Georgia on a warrant tied to more unpaid child support and for driving with a suspended license. This is the part of the story where it is easy to point and judge. But the honest question is this: what happens to a man when the only thing he was ever built for is taken away before he was ready to let it go? He was not just a basketball player. He was basketball, and when it ended, there was a very long fall. Ralph Sampson was not just a bust, he was not just a victim either. He was a warning. He was proof that even the most gifted athlete in a generation can be broken by the wrong coaches, the wrong era, the wrong decisions made in offices he was never invited into, and the wrong teammates who could not keep their own lives together long enough for the team to survive. He imagined a version of basketball that the world was not ready for yet. He could see what a big man could be. He just could not live in that future. The rules would not allow it. The medicine was not advanced enough to protect him. The coaches wanted something different, and his knees could not survive the gap between the player he was and the player they tried to force him to become. The modern NBA big man, the one who shoots threes and handles the ball and plays 40 feet from the basket, owes something to Ralph Sampson. Not because he taught anyone directly, but because he tried it first. He paid for it first. He showed the world what that kind of player could look like, and he broke himself doing it. His story did not end the way it should have, but it is a story worth knowing. Because behind every player who gets to do things the right way today, there is usually someone who tried it the hard way first.